Loneliness has become a common problem in today's society. But surprisingly, there has been very little examination of loneliness in organizations, despite the fact that most people spend a large part of their lives at work. Loneliness is important because of our need for connection with others. It is often mistaken as being alone, but this is not the case. Just because you work alone, for example, doesn't mean you will necessarily feel lonely. Rather, it is about feeling badly based on your assessment that your work relationships are not meeting your need to connect with others. For example, two employees could be in the same work group, but one might feel lonely while the other does not, based on a combination of their need to connect and what they perceive the social environment has to offer. Also, just because you are lonely at work doesn't mean you will also feel lonely elsewhere, such as your family or social life, and vice versa. To better understand the influence of loneliness at work, we conducted a field study examining the relationship between workplace loneliness and performance. As expected, we found that lonelier employees perform significantly less well at work as rated by their supervisors. This is because even though lonelier employees may desperately want to connect with others, they tend to see their social environment as threatening, and so they become overly sensitive to rejection in others' responses, are more self-focused, and are not as interactive. Thus, lonelier employees actually seem less approachable to their colleagues than less lonely employees. Our results also indicated that lonelier employees feel affectively less committed to their organizations. We theorize that this is because when employees feel badly about being disconnected from their work group, this negative feeling fans out toward ever-widening circles of potential connections, and ultimately to their commitment to the organization as a whole. To see how this process operates, take a look at this scene in a meeting where a lonely employee faces difficulties effectively approaching his coworkers, does not feel close to anyone around him, and even when he tries to engage in a conversation with others, his attempts to engage are ineffective, which ultimately leads to poorer performance. Now look at the same scene where the employee does not feel lonely. Rather, he engages in behaviors that help him effectively connect with his coworkers, is approachable to others, and stays committed and will ultimately exhibit higher levels of performance. Our study also considered a number of factors that can help mitigate the negative outcomes of workplace loneliness. The negative relationship between workplace loneliness and affective commitment is reduced for employees who work in stronger versus weaker emotional cultures of companionate love, where it is more acceptable and expected to express affection, caring, compassion, and tenderness. In contrast, this negative relationship is increased in emotional cultures of anger, where expressing angry feelings is more acceptable and expected, as well as if employees are surrounded by more rather than less other lonely coworkers. Our study shows that work, where people spend so much of their time, is not immune from the negative outcomes of loneliness. We find that loneliness hurts not only the lonelier employees, but also their coworkers and their organizations. In an era sometimes called by media the age of loneliness, a more complete understanding of workplace loneliness will not only help organizations and the people in them, but perhaps help create a healthier society as well.